Graham, the games keep coming there thick and fast at this point in the season.
Yeah, it's straight in at the deep end, Saturday, Tuesday. So, but the boys are ready. They've worked exceptionally hard in pre-season for this purpose, and it's not just about this first month, it's about the course of a whole season. But I think the players are getting fitter each game, so it's not a negative from our perspective that we're having a game every 3 days. We just see it as an opportunity for our players to get fully match fit, which I still think there's a little bit to go.
When it comes to this first part of the season and the games are every 3-4 days, as you say, would you prefer it as a manager, given that you've had all this time off for pre-season, that it would be sort of easier and it wouldn't be every 3 or 4 days, it might be every 7 days, and then as the season ramps up, then it gets a bit more of a hectic schedule, or is this just the nature of the beast?
Look, the games have to be put in somewhere, and obviously once you can't put them back a lot of the midweek games to the winter because there's difficulty with the weather, travelling, and actual games being called off. So I understand why it's sort of loaded up a little bit. I do, especially this season. I think with the extra time that's added on in the games, someone or read a stat the other day that if it continues this way, players will be playing an extra 4-5 games over the course of a season, which, listen, I never had a problem playing games, and I'm sure the players don't, but ultimately you have to have a squad to be able to manage that sort of load. It's a constant conversation in England, especially, that there's a lot of games, but it's still probably the most popular country to watch football in, and I think that's for a reason, that it's tough and it's hard physically, and the intensity is there in every single game. You have to compete right till the last minute in every single game, and there's never games that are just done and dusted. So and then you have to prepare and regenerate and go again, and the ones with the strongest will, the strongest resilience will come through at the end, and that's what we hope to build here.
What do you make of the added on time situation at the moment? It seems to be fluctuating quite a lot. There seems to be 6 minutes here, 7 minutes there, 10 minutes at other places. What have you made of it so far?
Look, I think I understand the principles behind it, and I back them. I think it's important. We want, even if we didn't have that, we want to play in a high tempo with intensity, sort of type fashion anyway. But it is just it's a sudden drastic change, which, and like I said, the first month will be quite heavy and on that side of it, and maybe it will balance out, but maybe the game has to be managed differently by players and managers to make sure it's not 9, 10, 11 minutes at the end of the game. So I'd wait for my judgment after a month, 2 months to see whether it's enhanced the game, because at the end of the day, that's what everyone's trying to do, is enhance the game as a sport, as a spectacle for the supporters. If that works, then we have to change with it. If it doesn't, then something has to adapt on that side, because it's all about making it a sport that people love to watch, and we already had that. That's the reality. It's a really popular sport. It's most popular, I would say, right now, but that doesn't mean to say that you take it for granted and you don't try and find more ways to improve. But we just have to. We don't see it as a negative. We see it as something that we have to overcome and build into our training regime and our players' fitness and our players' mentality.
When we were talking to Craig, the goalkeeper, on Saturday, he said that he was booked because he was stood around for 6 or 7 seconds or something like that. Yeah, that's something I think that needs to be looked at as well, doesn't it? Because there's slowing the game down, and then there's taking time to actually play the game. Yeah,
100%. That is definitely something that I would comment on, because we saw it in the first game where I think it happened 3 times in the first half. The opposition kicked the ball away or threw it away, but it was deemed not to be stopping the tempo of the game, which it definitely was. And then I think there was one on Saturday when that they kicked it away, but because they were 1-0 down, it wasn't seen as time wasting, which is obviously wrong, because we wanted to get the ball and play. 1-0's not enough in our eyes. We still want to get another goal. So that interpretation, I think, has been a little bit inconsistent in the first first 3 games. A couple of our players have been punished by it, and rightly so. But I think there's been other instances, depending on what the score line is and stuff. Craig didn't deserve to get a booking on Saturday. You know, in the first half when we were majorly on top, their goalkeeper was taking his time as well, and that was fine by us as long as there's consistency across the board. So that's where I think the time is quite. I think it's quite black and white. I think they stopped the time on injuries, goals, stuff like that. But the interpretation of the stopping the tempo of the game, I think, has got to improve a little bit. But I would say the referees that we've had have managed those games in decent fashion, to be fair.
Fitness-wise, your side look incredibly fit and covering plenty of ground. How are the injured guys getting on?
Yeah, it's like I said last week. It's we can't. Well, I tend to concentrate on the ones that I have fit and available, because like we've got a game to prepare for every 2 or 3 days. So we just focus on the ones that are right in front of us with their kit and their boots on. And excuse me, obviously I keep an update from Adam on players potentially coming back, but unless I see them warming up with the players or being told in the morning he's training today, then I'll try to focus on the ones that we have ready for the games. But look, they're in the best hands possible. They've got everything they need to be fit as quickly as possible. And sometimes it's just down to the player to push himself even harder. But yeah, we're patient with that. We have to deal with the ones we have. I think they are, excuse me, in a good place physically. I still think there's room for improvement with certain individuals, which we're constantly talking about and working with them. And they're still not the finished article, but the output and the commitment from the players has been absolutely top notch, and that's all you can do is work to your best at that particular time. But I still think there's the bar for best is a little bit higher than is at the moment.
And I suppose on that front, you've only used 2 substitutions in all of the games so far, when obviously there's more available to you, and you've mentioned plenty of times that there's a need for strength and depth. I suppose when you look around and you look behind you, is that a case that you can only see a couple of players who you think have reached that mark so far?
I can only go off what I see in training, so I don't, when we talked on Saturday after the game with yourself about it being a fresh start for everyone, that's generally it. So ones who have shown me in what 8 weeks or so, pre-season and the first, well, probably 7 weeks, isn't it? That they're here, they're at it, they're ready to compete, then they're in the team. I'm not going off last season, so whatever anybody did last season 2 years ago or has the potential to do in 2 years, it's not my concern. My concern is what I see in training every single day and who's ready to help us win a game of football. And if you're in that position to help us win a game of football, you will have your opportunities. That's as plainly as I can put it. I think in both games, the games have never been done. Certainly Saturday, because it was only 1-0. Even at Wrexham, we were always like 2, stroke 3 goals in front, but you could see how quickly momentum can change in games, and we have to manage those games correctly to win. It's not a charity where we're giving minutes for no one's paying subs to get their turn. You have to compete and make sure you're ready to help us win a game of football. So the challenge is there for everybody. Everyone that's in the squad who's fit and available knows where they stand. The ones that are in the team know what it's took to be in the team. The ones out of the team are quite clear in what they have to do to get in the team. I'm quite clear in my communication with each individual. I don't think anyone's sitting there scratching their head, what do I have to do? They know. So the team and the conditions to be in the team is all set by the players, and how they maximise what they have. So we know we've got good players and more than 11, 12, 13 good players, but I have to make decisions to win a game of football each week, and I'll try to do that to my best ability. Won't always be correct, but I'll do what I feel is right.
Onto Crawley then, and a manager you know pretty well.
Yeah, Scott. Yeah, I've known him since my youth team days at Scunthorpe United, and he's a local lad at Scunthorpe. Obviously, I came from Coventry, and he joined just after me, and we quickly became really good mates. We're both similar characters. Wanted to win every single day, and we took a shine into each other really quickly, and you know, I had a great time with him then, and our careers went different ways, but we've always kept in touch, not always really regularly, but over the course of the last, Christ, it must be 34 years or something. Wow, that makes me feel so old. Him as well, though. So yeah, and yeah, it's one where, you know, his journey to where he is now has been amazing. You know what he's had to overcome on and off the pitch, and you know. But if there's one thing I know about him, and he knows about me, is we want to beat each other and we want to compete, and but that's why we were so close. Years ago, but he's done a really good job at Crawley. Took over in difficult circumstances last season, kept them up, and then they've started this season in real good fashion with 2 excellent results in the league. And I know what his ambitions are. Spoke to him in the summer, and yeah, it's going to be a tough game for us.
I was going to say, yeah, I mean, going from where they were at the end of last season to the way they've started, they obviously want to, like you, really. Yep. Brush aside last season, draw a line under it, and have a completely fresh start. Yeah,
well, you're right. It's exactly the same as us. You know, obviously he's got a head start on, you know, knowing his squad and stuff like that. And but yeah, you know, both teams had disappointing seasons, and both have started this season in good fashion. So, but you know, I know there's a long way to go, a lot of games to be played, and but you know, I couldn't have asked for any more from a player so far, but you know, but I am gonna ask him for a bit more, and because I believe that there is more potential in our squad and in our players. But yeah, we're under no illusions. Tomorrow will be a tough game, so we have to be at our best.
And finally, we'll be speaking to Cameron Norman in a few seconds. What have you made of his impact since arriving?
Brilliant. You know, similar to, you know, my sort of words on MJ and Gilbs, really, these lads that have come into the club. You know, Cam, you know, I had a great conversation with him. He was the only player I didn't get to meet personally, face to face, but we did speak on Zoom, and I could see his passion for coming here. And you know, I haven't been disappointed one day. It was apart from when he missed a couple of weeks in pre-season. But
it was quite early on.
Yeah, well, it was early on. It was more precautionary than an actual injury. But you know, we knew we could take our time with him because of the way he looks after himself and how fit he is. That he was going to be there, ready to start the season. And I thought he was excellent on Saturday. You know, our outstanding threat in the first half, especially. But yeah, he's been great every day. You know, he's played right back in a 4, wing back in a back 3, but his output and his approach to it has been the same all the way through. So delighted with his start, but you know, like I'm going to do with all of them, I'm going to expect them and push them to improve. And but if anything, the attitude that Cam's got and several other players is that's all they want to do as well. So you know, we have to continue that sort of trajectory.